Thank Hashem. We're able to learn every day.
Amen.
And it's because of our learning. We should have the base of Migdash immediately. Should be for Shlema. All those that need. From Nassim ben Sarah, Aaron David Alevi, Ben Menucha Lester, from Rafael ben Sarah, and Sharanshel, Alevi ben Miriam Madel, and Sarah Basnani. We're going to start Chav Zayin Amid Beis. In my Gemara, it's about 5 lines from the wide lines, 5 lines down from the wide lines. There's 2 dots there. Amar of Papa. I'm sorry. That's where it starts. Yeah. This is the Chayra talking about on Chalamayid, where you don't want to do a hesped, so you don't put it down in the street, because that would encourage people to do a hesped. And only for a Talmud Chacham do you do a hesped. So Rav Papa says, Ein Moed b'fnei Talmud Chacham. This whole prohibition of having a hesped, having a eulogy on the intermediate days of the holiday, is only for other people, but for a sage, you do a hesped in front of them. V'kolsken Chanukah Purim, and for sure on Chanukah Purim, which is less of a holiday than Chol Hamoed. But that's only if the body is there in front of them. They can't just do a eulogy on these days and the body isn't there. Eini, is that really so? Rav Kahana, Safte, Rav Zvid, Minarda, B'pum Nara. Rav Kahana did a eulogy, and he did it for Rav Zvid from Nardoi. And he did the eulogy in Pumnara, and it wasn't where the body was. Amar of Papi, Yom Shmua Havi Kupefan of Dami. We said it was the day that they heard the news, and that's considered like the body's there. Amar Ula. Ula says, Hesped, the eulogy, is when a person is al-leiv, the ksiv al-shadayim seiftim. He bangs his heart. I guess he goes like this, like something in suffering, in sorrow. That's how he would do the eulogy. Tipuach, that's another part of the eulogy. That's biyad. It's when he clasps his hands together, And kilos is beregel. Kilos is when he bangs his foot. He bangs his feet on the ground. Just stomps his feet or something. That's part of the eulogy. Tanu Rabbanan. It was taught in a brisa. Hamekales leyakalis besandal ela b'minal mepnei sakana. If someone is doing that banging, that part of the eulogy that they bang the feet, you shouldn't bang wearing a sandal, because that could be dangerous. The sandal could fall off. You should be using a shoe. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Aval kivin shenina reisha yishuv ein menachem rashaim leishav etzlei." Yeah, this is a little bit unclear. It says when the aval nods his head, then the comforters should already go away. Apparently, at least what one of the commentaries says, is that when the mourner says, "I'm good now," and he does that with a nod of his head, so then it's time. They don't have to keep comforting him. They should already get up and go. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, another statement from Rabbi Yochanan, Hakol chayav lamed pnei nasi chutz mi'aval v'chayla. If a nasi comes in, everyone has to, all rise, right? But there's 2 people that could remain sitting, and that's the aval, a mourner, and a chayla, and someone that's sick. Rabbi Yochanan says, L'kol leimrim lem shavu chutz mi'aval v'chayla. Rabbi Yochanan says that everyone, after the nasi comes in, then they say, okay, you may be seated. So they do that to everyone except for the aval and the chayla, where they don't tell him that you may be seated. There's different interpretations for this. One is they don't have to tell him because they never had to stand up. Other one is that they're not supposed to tell them to sit, because telling them to sit sounds like they should continue in their aveilus. However, Rashi on the Rif has a different girsa here. Rashi on the Rif, his gear says Ikadam. You see, the two Rabbi Yechanans contradict each other. One of them is that he doesn't stand up. The other one is we don't tell him to sit down. Well, how do he stand up? Why is he standing? If the first Rabbi Yechanan says he's not supposed to stand, so the Rashi on the Rif has the Ikadam. Those that say the Rabbi Yechanan didn't give the first statement. There are those that say that Rabbi Yechanan said only the second statement, that he doesn't have to tell him to sit, because they're allowed to sit. Rabbi Yudah Marav. Okay. Rabbi Yudah says the name of Rav. He doesn't eat his own bread. The first day, this is when they serve him a meal. Sudas Havra, it's called. He gets the meal prepared. Yeah. How do you see this? This is Rabbi Yehuda saying in the name of Rav. How do you see this? Yechezkel, his wife passed away, but he wasn't supposed to behave as a regular mourner. Hashem tells him, don't eat the bread of others. That means that regularly a mourner would eat the bread of others. So that's where we see that Aval doesn't prepare his own meal. Rabbah Rav Yosef Mechalfis B'Sayol Adadi. It doesn't have to do with preparing the meal. It has to do with eating the meal that you yourself prepared. So they would actually switch meals with each other. Yeah. I guess they're mourning at the same time and they switched meals. Yeah. It's like your comparisons to Shalach Manas yesterday. This is how.
How could the Oval send his meal? But he prepared his food and he sent meals?
Yeah, apparently it doesn't have to do with actually standing in the kitchen and cooking. It has to do with they're not supposed to eat their own food. Someone's supposed to serve them food. So
he's allowed to send food to other people while he's an Oval?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any comments here. The only comment I have is that they would do it. I don't have. Usually we don't give gifts, but even by Shalach Manas and by an Avel, he's not supposed to receive, right? He's supposed to give to one person, and you don't send to him, right? You don't send to him. But the Suda Savra, obviously, he is supposed to receive. So maybe this is an exception to that general. Okay. Rav Yudah Marav. Rav Yudah says in the name of Rav, this is our second statement so far. Rav Yudah Marav. Meis Be'ir. If there is someone that's passed away in the city and the burial hasn't taken place, so Kol B'nai Yair Asurim B'Asiyas Malacha, the whole city has to stop till the burial. This has to be a village. This can't be a city. Can't stop the big city. Rav Hamnuna Ikla L'Drumta. Rav Hamnuna, he finds himself in Drumta. Shama Kol Shipura Deshchava. He hears a shofar sound that there's a funeral. Chaza Hanach Inshi Deka Avdi Avidita. But then he sees these people that are doing work. Amalu Lehevi Hanach Inshi B'Shamta. Okay, those people should be in Cherem. Leishchavika B'Masa. Is there not a corpse in the city? The funeral didn't happen yet, and they're already working. Amalei Chavurta Ika B'Masa. That means that there's groups in the city, and each one takes care of their own. Or it may mean that there's a Chavur Kadisha. We don't have to stop because there's an organization that takes care of it. Okay, if that's the case, then it's permitted for you. And Shayalachu could mean you're out of the Cherem, and it could also mean it's permitted to work. It probably means both. What's the Aleph? Yachi Shara. Sharia. Maybe. Okay. Rav Yudah Marav. another statement. Anyone that over mourns for more time than what the Torah assigns for the mourning period, doesn't get out of the mourning period, just continues to mourn. So Al Mei Sacher Hu Baiche is actually crying for someone else that didn't pass away yet. Yeah. Or someone else that's going to pass away. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a punishment that he's not following the prescribed mourning times, or if this is somehow he happens to intuit that something else is happening and that's why he's crying. Is it a einish or is it a simon? Maybe like he's into it. What does it say? It's a punishment. Okay. It's the Habib Shivusi de Rav Huna. It was a woman that was in the neighborhood of Rav Huna. Havala Shiva Banai. She had 7 sons. Meis Chad Minayo. Havas Kabachia B'Yiserta. One of them passed away, and she cried very, very much. Shalach le Rav Huna le'tavdi hachi. Rav Huna said, "Stop it." Layashka be. She didn't listen. Shalach le itzaisus motiv. He says, "If you listen, then good." Ilaitzavis. If you don't listen, zavarata le'idach mis. Prepare tachrichem for another corpse. Misukulu, they all passed away. L'saif, at the end, Amala Timush Zavadat Zabdasa Lenafshach Umisa. Prepare shrouds for herself, he tells her. And she died. Yeah. We'll see in a moment what it's yeah, this is a punishment, right? Al tifkul ameis val tenudulai. Okay, this is a pasuk in Yirmiyah. It says, "Don't cry for the dead and don't bemoan them." Al tifkul ameis yosemi die. That means don't overcry. Don't cry more. Val tenudulai yosemi kashir, and don't bemoan them more than the prescribed time.
Yeah, beyond the month.
Yeah, beyond the month, beyond each, there's several levels here. Okay, Tzad, how does this work? Shleisha Yamim Libechi. 3 days is for crying. Shiva, 7 days Lehesped. That's for eulogizing. Shleishim, 30 days Lagiatzol Tispirus. That's for pressed clothes and for taking haircuts. Mikan Veilach, after that, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says, Yeta Rachmanim Bayesh Mimeni. Don't have more compassion than I do. So Hashem's comment says, I made them, and this is the way I set it up. Yeah.
There's no laws for being too happy.
Yeah, Rav Huna's comment, the woman would not be what they would say today. You know, like, stop crying, get over it, you know. That would not be, yeah.
Why is this not making any reference to Yaakov's mourning over Yosef that was extended, that couldn't be comforted,
Right.
and not using that to show, according to this, Yaakov would have brought on death.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
That was for many
Over
years.
there it says that someone that hasn't passed away, that if someone passed away, so it takes 12 months to forget, for the strong memory to be there. After that, they're consoled, they're comforted after 12 months. After a year, it says after a year, a person is forgotten. 11 months it has to do with Kaddish, but so it says that was a proof that he didn't pass away because he was still alive.
Does it say that he hadn't accepted that his son was gone? To other people, it looked like he was in mourning, but he hadn't accepted. He was still crying for a missing son.
What they taught me in school was that it's only This only applies to someone that actually passed away, but because he was still alive, so that's why he kept crying.
What question for your teacher?
Yeah. The question that we asked in school was that, so then why didn't he realize that Yosef was alive if he couldn't stop crying? That should have itself been a sign that it must be that he's alive. Yeah. Anyway, okay. This is a continuation of that pasuk in Yirmiyah. Cry and go, or for the one that goes. What it said over there was, don't cry for the one that passed away, don't bemoan him, cry for the one that's exiled. But here it's being translated a little different. It says, Amar Rav Yehuda lahaylech b'lei banim. Cry for someone that passes away without children. Yeah, in Kabbalah it says about that with Gilgulim, when this is reincarnation, so which times that it comes back is considered a permanent time, that which time it comes back is considered that it's just there for another reason. So if there were children from that time in this world, so that means that was a real life. That's the yeah. So someone that passed away without children, that's someone that to cry for. Rabbi Shua ben Levi lo yazal lebeyav le'el laman da'azal b'lei bani. Rabbi Shua ben Levi must have been, because he was busy learning Torah, he wouldn't go to a regular mourner's house. But if someone passed away without children, then he would go there. The question is, whose house did he go to? He went to the brother's house, I guess, to the other mourners. Maybe it means without, one of the commentators says he passed away without male children. He would go to them because there was no one to say Kaddish. And that's okay. Kila Yashav Oid, the one that goes, the simple shot, someone that's going into exile. He won't return, and see the land of his birthplace. What does this mean? He won't return and see the land of his birthplace. Rav Huna Amar Zesha Avar Aveir V'Shanaba. This is someone who's the one that won't do tshuva. That's how we're translating it now. He won't return. That is someone that did an Aveira and then repeated it. Rav Huna L'Tamei. This follows Rav Huna's reasoning. Damar Rav Huna says, Kivin Adam Avar Aveir V'Shanaba Hutshalai. Once someone did an Aveira once, so then he does it again, it becomes permissible to him. It says, that's how it works. You do the Aveira twice and then the law goes off. So Elaima Nasas like that. It doesn't mean that it actually becomes permissible. It feels permissible. It's like, yeah, I do this all the time. Don't worry about it. So it becomes like heter. Yeah, the commentaries say, so why didn't Rav Huna say that? Why did he say Avar Aveira V'Shana B'Hutralai, that it becomes permissible? Says this was just a way of getting people to listen to what he's about to say, because he said it in a way that's like, oh really, that's how it works, and then that's what it means. You know, it's a great teacher here to get the people to listen up. So Amar Rab Levi says Aval Shleish Yamar Yishainim Yiras Asmi Kila Cherv Manachas Leidein Shtei Yirichaisav or Kseifav probably. The first 3 days of mourning, a person should imagine that there's a sword that's between his shoulders. Yeah. This probably has to do with, it says that if one person of a group passes away, the rest of the group should be concerned. So if someone, a relative, passes away, so the first 3 days, the person should be very concerned. From 3 to 7, you should imagine that the sword is there, but it's in the corner. It's in the marketplace. It's in town. It says the bed of the women, the bier of the women is not put in the street. It's not left in the coffin. Is not left in the street to do the eulogies in the street, because they didn't want to put it down And Amri Nardai explained that this was Leishanu Ella, this was only taught Chaya for a woman that died during birth, because the fluids would be flowing, the blood or whatever. But other women are allowed to be placed in the street. Rabbi Lazar Amar Afilu Shar Nashim. Rabbi Lazar, this is Rabbi Lazar ben Pedas. He says even other women also should not be placed in the street. Except Batamas Sham Miriam, Batikaver Sham. Miriam died there and she was buried there. Samach Lamisa Kvura. They wanted to do the burial right there. They didn't want to take her to somewhere else because of what could flow out. That's what it sounds like. Amar Rabbi Lazar says Af Miriam ben Ashika Mesa. Miriam actually died with a kiss. It's the tzaddikim, they die with, it's called misas neshikin. It's not a pain, there's no pain there. It's a kiss from Hashem and the soul goes out. Asya Sham Shami Maisha. Sorry?
Rachel died from childbirth and she was buried in the street.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting that we didn't mention that. Jonathan is telling us that about Rachel. Rachel died during childbirth and she was buried on the road. Right?
Well, in a cemetery, maybe it's different.
I'm sorry? Yeah. The sages say differently. The sages say she's buried on the road so that when the people would go into exile, she would cry for them. Rachel Mavaka al Bana. And that's she was placed there so that for the later on we should be prayed for by Rachel. So over here it says Asya Sham Sham Imaisha. By Miriam it says Vatama Sham Miriam Vatikaver Sham. She died there. By Maisha it also says that Sham. What was the pasuk by Maisha? Okay, so does it say the pasuk by Maisha? Do you have any comments? What was it?
Volume 34:5.
Yeah, what does it say? Does it quote it? Does it say?
Vayamat Sham Moshe.
Vayamas Sham Maisha. Okay. So why doesn't it say that Miriam passed away al pi Hashem, by the mouth of Hashem? It says that was not appropriate, even for Hashem to say that by the mouth that Hashem kissed her, a woman. By Moshe it says that, but for a woman it didn't want to see, even though she died with a kiss, but it wasn't the language wasn't appropriate. Okay, I'm sorry. Amar Abami, this was not written in 2022.
That's true, I forgot.
Amar Abami, Lama Nis, it's relevant, but always. Lama Nischa Misas Miriam, Leparshas Para Aduma. Parshas Para Aduma is Parshas Chukas. Immediately after the Para Aduma, the red heifer, it says over there that Miriam passed away. Malach is coming to tell you, Ma Para Aduma Mechaperes Af Misas and Shal Tzadikim Mechaperes. Just like the Para Aduma atones, what does the Para Aduma atone for? For the Egel. The Egel, the golden calf. The red heifer is the mother of the golden calf. It says that let the mother come and clean up the mess of the child. So that's the Para Aduma that atones for the Egel. So too, the death of tzaddikim is also an atonement. Yeah, you know what this is in Tanya?
Oh, yeah.
Remember this?
Yes, I do.
Quotes it in 25 or something, 26. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Lama Nischa Misas Aaron the big day kahuna. This is interesting. When Aaron passed away, it describes how he got undressed and they put the clothing on to his son, Elazar. Says, why does it say that right next to his death? Because that's what happened. But why does the Torah have to tell that to us? Well, it's coming to tell us Ma big day kuna mechaprin, just like the clothing of the Kayan Gadol atones. Af misas and shal tzadikim mechaperes. Yeah, we had this in Yuma, the different things for brazenness and all of that. Taner Rabbanan, Taner Nabraisim, Meis Pissaim. If someone dies suddenly, Zui Misa Chatufa. This is like the death; he's being snatched away, which looks like, at least from the Gemara later, that this is this is happening because of a sin. That's what it looks like from the Gemara later. If he was sick for one day, this is like a rush death. That's what happens in a plague. Gets sick, and he dies for one day later. Ben Adam, it says in Yecheskel, when Hashem tells Yecheskel that he's going to take the desire of his eyes, the beloved of his eyes, that's his wife, the Magefa in a plague. I spoke to the people in the morning, and it says his wife passed away in the evening. Shnei yamim, if it takes 2 days, this is it's pushed away the death for 1 day. Gimel, if it takes 3 days, he's sick for 3 days. Gara, that's like there's screaming. Arba, there's 4 days, it's nazifa, it's contempt. And 5 days, chamisha zui misas kaladam, that's how long it normally takes. Yeah, that a person would be sick for 5 days and then pass away. Amar Rab Chanan Mikra, where do you see this? Quote by Moshe, it says, behold, your days have come to pass away. This is Hashem telling Moshe. Hein is chad. We'll see in a moment that the Greek word for one is hein. I don't speak Greek, so I don't know. Karvu, to come close, is trey. That means 2 days. Yamecha, your days, that's another 2. It's plural. Hachamisha, so 2 plus 2 plus 1 is 5. Hein is chad, shekem b'lashon Yevani, karen la'achas hein. The number 1 is hein in Greek. You know how to say 1 in Greek? Hein.
No.
Maybe pronounced a little different. I don't know. If someone passes away at 50, zui misas kares. That's a death of excision. Kares sounds like a punishment. Chamishim ushtayim shana. If someone passes away at 52, zui misas shel Shmuel Aramasi. That's how long Shmuel Aramasi lived. Shmuel lived 52 years. He lived. Shmuel Aramasi. He lived 52 years. 2 years were until he came back to the temple. Right, it came when he was 2, I think. And then it says that he would live La'ilam, which is 50 years. He lived 52 years. Shishim zui misa bidei shamayim. Now, this is 2 ways of reading this. 60 years is misa bidei shamayim. Either that means the quote misa bidei shamayim, that's like a punishment, or misa bidei shamayim means this is a natural death. No, it's not a punishment. This is normal. Misa, that happens. Bidei shamayim. This is because of the way it normally is.
I don't think the average person in those days lived 60.
How long do you think they live?
60 is a pretty healthy life in those days. It's nice.
Yeah.
Google it.
Yeah. I'm not sure if what do you call the historiography? I don't know if we have it perfectly. I mean, they tell us today that historically people lived much less. I don't know if they have it really, if they understand. It could be together with the childbirth, with there was a lot of infant mortality, and it could be they averaged that out. I'm not sure exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Shishim is Amar Marzutra. Marzutra says, Mikra, where do you see this? That 60 years would be that Misa Bidei Shemayim, which sounds like it's a normal thing. It says, Vatavai Bakelach Alai Kever. You come to me in the grave with the rich harvest, Kelach. And Kelach, Begamachia Shitin Havi. Kelach is 60. 70 years, Shivim, Seva. That's old age. Shmainim, 80 years, that's gvuris, that's strength. For the strong ones, they live 80 years. Amar Rabba.
Yeah, by the way, we haven't picked up.
Yeah.
70 years to death.
Right. And Shmainim is gvuris, right? That's what it says.
Yeah, so.
Rabba says, from 50 to 60, all of that time, that's considered kares. So why didn't the Mishnah, the Brisa say that before? It says, well, Mishum Kvodesh Shel Shmuel Aramasi, it didn't want to say that when Shmuel passed away at 52. It didn't want to say that. He obviously passed away because that's how long he was able to live from the beginning. But while we're mentioning Shmuel Aramasi, we weren't going to give that time frame. Rav Yosef, sorry?
When Eli, when he spoke to Shmuel about, if you don't tell me what the prophecy was, that's gonna be on you. I heard that also impacted Shmuel himself.
I thought that it impacted his children. That
Shmuel. His children. Okay.
Yeah, it says over there. It says "Killas chacham afilu al tanai." The Gemara says. Oh, maybe it says both over there. It says even though he gave a condition, but when a tzaddik says something even on condition, it still happens. Yeah, so that could be because of it. That because of that he didn't say right away, or maybe because of what Eli said. That's what caused it, but it wasn't because of kares. Rabbi Yosef ki avi bar shitin avad le'yom tavel rabbanon. Rabbi Yosef makes a birthday party, 60-year-old birthday party for the yeshiva. Amri nafkali mikares. So what's the big occasion? He says, I've passed the age of kares. Amalei Abaya, so Abaya is a student. He says, Nehida nafik le'mar mikares deshani mikares diyamim minafik mar. You pass the kares of the years, but what about the kares of the days? Apparently, if someone that dies suddenly, that was also a type of kares. Look, I'm happy with one of them. So that's already something. You can make a party for each step of this, Yeah. For that's going to be difficult to make a party for the other one. Yeah, like Elchanan said, right? He's planning on living forever, and so far it's going quite well. Okay. Ravuna nach nafshi pisim. Ravuna passed away suddenly. Havikad daigi Rabbanan. The Rabbanan were concerned about this. Ravuna was the great teacher. Passed away suddenly. What happened? Tanalu zuga de ma'adayev. So this is a little dramatic. They're not telling us some details here. So this pair from Mahadayev, it sounds like a place in Russia. I'm not sure where that is. They say, that's that when it says if someone dies suddenly, that it's a bad sign. That's if he wasn't 80 years old. But if he's 80, if he reached 80, then that's the death of being kissed by Hashem.
Here you see that people didn't expect to live past 80.
Right.
So they definitely live shorter than
Okay. Amar Rava. Rava says, Chaye bani amazaynei. When it comes to long life, children, and parnasa, it doesn't have to do with a person's merits. It has to do with their mazel. Yeah. Today they would say it's genetics, but it's b'mazel. It's what was set up before, from originally from when they were born. What would happen to them? Sorry. Okay. Daha, and this is the proof. The Rabba and Rav Chizda Tavayu Rabbanan Tzadiki Abi. Rabba and Rav Chizda were both rabbis and tzaddikim. Mar Matzli Vasamitra, Mar Matzli Vasamitra. They could both pray and the rain would fall. However, Rav Chizda Chai Tishin V'tar Tishin, and Rav Chizda lived 92 years, and Rabba Chai Arbain, Rabba only lived for 40. Bei Rav Chizda Shitin Yiluli, the house of Rav Chizda, they made 60 weddings. Bei Rabba Shitin Tichli, the house of Rabba made 60 funerals. Bei Rav Chizda Smida Lakalbi V'lei Mitbi. For the house of Rav Chizda, they had Smida, I think means like fine flour. They had for the dogs, and they didn't have to even ask. Bei Rabba Nami Deshar Linshi V'lei Mishtaka. They had barley bread for the men, for the people, and they couldn't even find it. There wasn't even enough. Amar Rava, Hanitlas mili boy kamishmaya. Rava says, I davened for 3 things. Tarti yavali, chadala yavali. 2 of them I got, 1 of them I didn't get. Chuchmasa de Rav Huna, v'utre de Rav Chizda v'yavali. I davened to have the wisdom of Rav Huna and the wealth of Rav Chizda, and I got it. On Vesanuse de Rabbi Bar Rav Huna layavali, but I asked for the humility of Rabbi Bar Rav Huna, and that they didn't give me. He says, I'm not humble. Okay, that's pretty humble, right? Yeah, that's a good point. David's saying that. I guess it's a question. Why did he even daven for it? Why did he even daven for it? This is things that takes work. Daven to, but I guess you can daven that the work should be successful. I guess that's what he's doing. Rav Sha'irim, I've never heard of him before. Rav Sha'irim, Achva de Rava, he's the brother of Rava. Havi Yosef Kamei de Rava, he's sitting in front of Rava. Chazi Davika Menamnim. Sees that Rava is dozing off, but dozing off over here means he's on his deathbed. It's a goisis. Amar lei, so Rava tells him, Lema leimar, the leila tzaran. Tell the Malach HaMaves that it shouldn't hurt when he passes away. This is Rava's request from his brother. He should daven. He should tell the Malach HaMaves. Amar lei mar alav sheshvinu. He says, is the master not a friend of the Malach HaMaves? It's not. You can't talk to him. Once I'm given over into his hands, he's not going to listen to me. So tell me what happens after the passing. He wants him to come back and to tell him how it was. Yeah, so Rava appears to him. Did the master have what was it? You're pitching tomorrow?
Yes.
Right. So did the master have pain during the passing? Amaleki rivda de kusilta. This was like the pain of getting bloodletting. It was just, they would put like a little needle and they would just like pull out the blood. It hardly hurts. Bloodletting. Like a rivda de kusilta. Yeah. Okay. Rava, Havi Yosef Kamei Rav Nachman. The same story. Rava's in front of Rav Nachman. Chassid Kamanamnim. He sees that he's passing away. Amalei lema leimar the leila tzaran. Rav Nachman tells to Rava, tell the Malach HaMaves he shouldn't be hard. He shouldn't make it painful. Amalei mar lav vadam chashavu. You're not an important person. You could tell him. Amalei man chashiv man safan man rakia. Several expressions of who's important, who's prepared, who can do this. Okay. Who can do this at that moment? Amalei l'schazi leimar. Come to me and tell me how it happens. L'schazi le. So Rav Nachman appears to Rav Amalei. Havalei lemar tzara. Was it painful? Amalei kimishchal benisa mechalva. This is like removing a hair from milk. There's no pain. It's nothing. Just comes out. Yeah, in the dream. That's what it appears. But nevertheless, if Hashem would tell me to go back to the world that I came from, I would not want to do it because it was scary. It wasn't painful, but the fright of passing away, that was the difficult part. It's traumatic. Rabbi Lazar is in the middle of eating truma. Rabbi Lazar must be a kohen. It's chazile. The Malach HaMaves appears. Amarle, he says, truma ka'achilna, balav kodesh ikri. Don't take me. I'm in the middle of eating truma. It's gonna get it's kodesh. It's gonna get tamei. It's a chalfalei shaita. The time passed. Survived. Rav Sheshes is chazile b'shuka. Shesha sees the Malach Hamavas in the marketplace. Amalei Beshuka Kebehema, in the marketplace like a dog. Isa Lagabi Besa, like an animal rather, like an animal. Isa Lagabi Besa, come to the house. Yeah, it doesn't say if he survived after that, but obviously it wasn't. He didn't pass away in the market.
He survived
Rav
the story.
I'm sorry.
He survived enough to tell the story.
Yeah. Unless it's his students. Yeah. Rav Ashi is Chazile Beshuka. Rav Ashi sees him in the marketplace. Amarle Yitrachli Tlasam Yaimin Bahadjila Talmudai. Give me 30 days. I want to review Shas. The Amrisu, yeah, could say, give me 7 years, right? Ashi Misha Balakan Talmudi Biyadai. It says, happy is the one that comes and he has his learning in his hand. He has to review it. B'yoyim tlasin asa. He comes on the 30th day. Amalei Michael hi. What's the rush? Why do you have to come exactly on time? She says, Kadachka Raglea de Barnasan. The feet of Barnasan is Rav Huna Barnasan, who takes over after Rav Ashi. Bein Malchus Nagas Bechaverta Filkum Nima, and leadership doesn't overlap anyone, even a hair's breadth. So it's already the time for the next leader. Rav Chizda Le'avi Yachalei. Malach Hamavis wasn't able to take Rav Chizda. Because he didn't stop studying Torah. Salak Yosef Ba'arza de Beirav. The Malach Hamavis goes into the tree, into a cedar tree in the house of Rav. Paka Arza. He breaks the tree. B'shasik. He stops learning. What was that noise? B'yachalei was able to take him. Rav Chia. The Reb Chia, the Malach Hamavis couldn't even get close to him. One day he appears to him like a poor person. Also, Taraf above, he goes and he knocks on the door. Amalei apikli rifta. Says, give me some bread. Apikole, so he gives him bread. Amalei v'lavka marachem mara'anya. Ahu gavra mai like marachem. You have such compassion for a poor person. Have compassion on me, the Malach Hamavis. Amai like Marachimar. Why don't you have compassion? Galilei revealed himself. Achvile Shuta Denura. He shows him a rod of fire. Amtile Nafshe, and Rav Chia allows himself to be taken. Okay, let's leave it over here. Messiah B'Tayv. Everyone should have good. Let's leave it over here. We finish tomorrow. Bezos Hashem. And what's the story with the CM? Did they ever call you?
You're the CM manager.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day.